Most kings throughout history were dethroned for being too cruel, too weak, or too corrupt. But in Korean history, there's a king who lost his throne for a very different reason. He was considered too kind, too lenient, and too unwilling to punish his enemies. His name was Yeonseong. Wait, actually, let me tell you about King Seongjong's son, Yeonseon. No, actually, the king we're talking about today is even more fascinating. Welcome back to Korea Uncovered. King Gongyang was the last ruler of the Goryeo dynasty, the predecessor to Joseon. He came to power in 1389, not because he was powerful or ambitious, but because the real power broker of the era, General Joseon, needed a puppet king he could control while he consolidated his own position. Gongyang was chosen precisely because he seemed manageable. But Gongyang surprised everyone. Despite being installed as a figurehead, he actually tried to be a real king. He attempted to reform the government, reduce corruption, and protect the old Goryeo aristocracy from Joseon's rising faction. He showed genuine compassion, repeatedly pardoning officials who plotted against him rather than executing them. This compassion was seen as dangerous weakness by Joseon and his allies. Every time Gongyang pardoned an enemy instead of eliminating them, that enemy remained alive to plot again. In the brutal calculus of medieval court politics, kindness wasn't a virtue, it was a liability. Yi and his faction began to see Gongyang's mercy as an obstacle to their plans. The end came swiftly in 1392. Joseon's faction fabricated charges against Gongyang, accused him of incompetence and disloyalty, and forced him to abdicate. Within months, Joseon declared himself the founder of a new dynasty, Joseon. Gongyang was exiled with his family to a remote province. The story doesn't end there. 3 years after his forced abdication, Gongyang and his sons were assassinated on Joseon's orders. The new Joseon dynasty couldn't risk having a living former king who could become a rallying point for resistance. His kindness had failed to save him, and his very existence became a threat that had to be eliminated. The tragic irony of Gongyang's story is profound. Had he been crueler, more ruthless, more willing to eliminate his enemies when he had the chance, he might have survived. His mercy toward those who plotted against him gave them the opportunity to eventually destroy him. In the world of medieval Korean court politics, compassion could be fatal. Today, Gongyang is remembered with a mixture of sympathy and historical fascination. He represents a road not taken. What if the transition from Goryeo to Joseon had been different? What if a king of genuine good intentions had managed to reform the old dynasty rather than being swept aside? His tomb still exists in Korea, and he is periodically rehabilitated in historical assessments as a tragic figure rather than a failed one. The story of the king dethroned for being too kind is ultimately a story about the gap between personal virtue and political survival. Being a good person and being an effective ruler are not the same thing, and history is full of leaders who discovered that painful truth too late. Subscribe to Korea Uncovered for more stories that challenge what you think you know about history.